Yes.
There we are. It's now being live streamed. So what I'll do is just check that it's gone onto my page. There we are. Not yet. Come on, son. Yep, that's it. I've already turned the volume down. You see, I'm learning
Good job.
slowly but surely. Comments will appear here. By all means, put comments up, chaps. And if we can, we'll have a look at them and maybe answer if you've got any questions. We'll see what we can do. Mela, Mela, Pamela, how do you want to be referred to? Because I get mixed up all the time.
I found this experience to be, this is my soul name, Mela, but I actually don't expect anyone to call me, anything in
Right,
particular. I don't really
right.
don't care. It
No.
just, that's what I call myself, and that's all that matters. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, Mila. I looked it up, because like Elsa does, because it comes to her automatically, right?
Mm.
But I had to look it up. So I looked up Pamela and I looked up Mila from the Sanskrit, which means festival or the organizer of festivals. So that makes perfect sense. But the other one was the Greek one, which was interesting because I know you call me, refer to me sometimes as snarky,
Yeah.
right? And it said Mila is dark with an edge. It said, and I thought, oh, well, that's good. Yeah, that's good. We're on the same vibration then, really.
Yeah.
But how the devil are you?
I'm amazing. I'm amazing. We are in so much time of downloads and validations and like you can't it feels like we're really in a it could be even poorly written movie because there's so many points all pointing to the same thing, and it's like it's been an amazing experience.
Yeah, I'm sort of because I'm a scientist, right? I have to sort of I don't go looking for evidence, but when you say you get these downloads, I sort of get uploads. I don't know whether it seems to come this way around with me. But I wait to see it until it sort of materializes in the flesh. That's where I'm up to really, because I think I could, I've got that sort of mind that I can go off on one, into all sorts of fantastic thinking, right? And none of it materializes really. So
Mm.
I've come to that point now where it's like, okay, show me and show me really clearly in this three dimension that we live in. Show me this in front of me now, and that's where I'm up to really. I don't know what you
Yeah.
feel about that, but there's so many streams coming in. I mean, I'm like you, all this stuff's coming in. It sometimes knocks me over with the stuff that's coming in, and I don't know what's true from false most of the time until
Yeah.
I allow it to go into me heart and then feed it back to me to say, look, Joe, this is the truth. And I'll go, well, prove it then. That's where I'm up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm using the discernment in this way that going into the heart is exactly how we're all being guided to take in any information, like, and I found that at first I would do this, I would feel this discernment pop in and say, oh, that's not, ooh, and I would then like, that person was shadow banned on my behalf. Like I'm like no longer gonna, and there was still code and content that was useful. In fact, the bulk of it could be this. And I was reminded of at a teenage and early 20s period, I devoted 6 weeks to a variety of different religions. First 6 weeks with this one, I wanted to discover because and this is something I was meant to do because they were explaining to me, I say they when I'm talking about God, spirit, guides. There's just so many energies. It's they. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they had um, shown me this as a buffet. A buffet is a large table with many varieties of food. And we're not going to go up there with our plate. Well, I don't know. Maybe some people might, but we're not usually going to go up there with our plate and have some of everything. We take what we want and we leave the rest. And this is what's true for all things spiritual. And so some of the code is not meant for you. And so that's not meant for you to be worried about either. Just move on to the next part, And so when we started to practice our discernment this way, then we got to find out that everyone's story is true and correct. It's simply what part of the code is intended for you.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I have the same picture, like a smorgasbord, really,
Yeah.
and but most of my life I've just sort of quietly gone up to the edge of the table and taken up the curled up sandwiches on the end, really, because I've had this deep indwelling insecurity, really, and lack of self-esteem and self-worth. And people have said to me, "But you've got all these qualifications, you've got this, you're very clever, this, that, and the other." It wasn't anything to do with that. It was something deep within me that was so emotionally insecure because of my emotional immaturity, really. And I'm just like, this is where I'm up to. And is it gone completely? No, it hasn't. I think because there's always something that comes in, and it's in the beginning it was real clear, cues, big triggers, that brought up like anger and defensiveness and stuff. But over the years, it's become more subtle. So the cues, have become more subtle. So it's almost given me the what's the word I'm looking for? The training, really, into
Mm.
becoming more aware of these subtle vibrations that actually guide our behavior. And I'm not immune to it at all, but I've learned a lot. I've got a lot more to learn. And people say to me, "What shall I do in this circumstance?" I've got no idea. I'm just trying to tune in myself and find out how I'm being guided by, as you say, them.
Yeah.
And people talk about their teams. I've got no idea about all that, because I say to them, which team's doing it today, and which one, give me a name. And I don't Mila, I don't get any of stuff like that, names or anything. Sometimes I get clear pictures. What I tend to get is geographical locations that feed me, you know
Mm.
and so, for example, I've just come out of a Mesopotamian phase, right?
Yeah.
And I was never into, I nearly swore that, I was never into Mesopotamian and stuff like that, except when I was a child. I seem to remember words from that time, like Tigris, Euphrates, and all that stuff from my childhood, and the names that I remembered then, right, is coming back now.
Uh,
And I've traveled around the bloody world in the last few months. I've traveled around the world. The biggest influence has been ancient Egypt, and then I moved into Sumeria, and then I moved further down then into all sort of unlabeled places, really. And where
yeah.
I'm up to now is, I was saying this to Elsa the other day, where I'm up to now is I'm in the land of the dinosaurs at the moment now, right?
Wow. Yeah, that
And I
makes
got
sense.
this clear picture of this dinosaur with me, right? And I thought, oh God, I know what that is. Don't be at it now. So I went to the Encyclopedia of Dinosaurs, and sure enough, it was T-Rex. And I thought,
Shut
oh
the
well,
front door.
no, no, honest to God,
I
T-Rex,
just
yeah.
got off the phone with Stacy and she had the same thing and it was a T-Rex.
Oh, there
I'm
you go.
sorry, just barely got out
No,
like an
that's
hour ago.
no, that would no, no. Here it comes now, right? So this is told you, son. Told you, we're with you all the time, and that's the indication I get. That's the connection, and we're with you. We're working with all of you, right? So pay attention because we're trying to guide you. My big thing is I call this channel a Getting Real with Dr. Joe, because for me, this is not so much about fantasizing and theorizing. It's about bringing the information in, right, and then taking practical steps to improve the quality of my life,
Yeah.
and then if it goes on there and helps other people, all well and good. But I'm not one of these, like, who says, like, oh, I'm in the service of mankind and all that crap. It's like I'm trying to improve my own life and the life of my kids, and my wife and the cats and all that. And if anything else then goes further than that, then all be that's a good thing.
And it always does. That's the best part. I mean, just now, well, by you sharing what you did, that is now, I mean, I know Stacy isn't on Facebook, so when this goes on to your YouTube, she'll see this and this will help her. And this is just a very clear example of many examples, of how when we are doing the work that's meant for ourselves, and then, like you said, then the immediate surrounding area, your cats and your kids and your wife, and it goes and goes out. Um, and while this occurs in this way, we're actually affecting all of the things. And even not just we can track in this direct way. Like, I agree with you. There are a lot of things that I don't know about. I know what they are. I just don't know what they're called because, I don't know if you know this, but until 2020, I literally didn't know other people were talking about this stuff. And I wasn't keeping it a secret. It's just like it's trying to explain quantum physics to a kindergartner. It's like there's no point. And I didn't feel worry about it. However, when 2020 came around, I found channels that have been doing it for years. And and so in some ways I'm in my infancy because I still don't have, I don't know what you all mean when you may say this thing or that thing. And some people really resonate a lot more with practices such as light language that are something that isn't something that I utilize. But I do toning, it's I channel, I upload a lot too, where when I have conversations, I don't often recall the vast majority of what was said. And it's not because I'm not paying attention. I'm very in the moment. If you can see me, I'm very into what's being said. It's that I'm so in the moment that my logic's all the way over here that I'm a clear channel. And so when I channel, whatever's meant to come out does come out in the moment that it's meant to. Like I already had a list of things I was going to talk to you about. And so far, I haven't mentioned any of them, and it's because it's not supposed to yet.
The word I was given a long time ago is extemporaneousness, right? Because I love words,
Mm,
and it just means to live without a script. And what
yeah,
that means to me is to live beyond logic and beyond labels and beyond ego mind. So we live beyond memory. So there's nothing to refer back to. So living in that sort of 0.0 moment where there's nothing but there's everything at the same time. See,
yeah.
we had a talk a month ago, and I can't remember a single thing about it whatsoever. I don't know what we talked about. I purposely did not go back and have a look at it because I don't remember, but I will after this talk go back to see if we're saying the same things, you see. But I'm not bothered about it though, Mila. I don't care because whatever's coming out, if we're not sort of dipping in with what I call the editor all the time, you know what I mean? Then it will just be flowing, and it might have some significance for somebody who's listening. But I think in the beginning was the word, and then everything got misinterpreted then by the human
Yeah.
being, I think. And so you see, here it comes again now in a big sure. It's like a slap on the back. Sometimes I get like a huggy feeling, and
Yeah.
sometimes I get like a slap on the back of the head.
Yeah. I get the slap of the hand. It's
Yeah.
111 right now, by the
Oh
way.
right, yeah. But you see, see, so this is good, and I don't know where it's going to lead. But once again, I think from a physical point of view, I'm getting lots and lots of information about water, water, water everywhere.
Yeah.
Water.
Yes.
And not only water, but also plasma is important. And not only is the human plasma important, but it's the solar plasma as well. And where I'm up to with my head now, and I'll keep going this quickly before my head jumps in. I've got the great central sun, which is representative metaphysically of the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the sort of first explosion where everything was sort of created, if you like. So the great central sun is, to me, that's the spirit, it's the force, it's the power behind everything else. And I think as we then become stars, they're representative of individual souls. I've got no idea what I'm going on about here, but I'll just keep going. Individual souls. So we are of stardust. And then it materialized even further, became rocks, became earth, became and all that sort of business. And that was the sort of almost like the descension,
Yeah.
to this 3D reality. And I think that's where my head is all the time now. So I keep getting, right, okay, Joe, all the information's coming in from these different dimensions. That's where the quantum physics comes in, the subtlety of it. Um, but you've got to live here on the planet Earth. This is where you got your job. This is what you decided to come down for. I think that your job, Joe, is to just experience, to share your experience, your strength, and your hope with people, and maybe they'll pick something useful up. And I think I look at myself and I think, son, you're doing all right because you were in a lot of shit for a long time and you were very unwell. But now, generally speaking, you're improving all the time. I've got no idea. That was a whole load of
That segued into something I was going to talk about before, and I said we shouldn't talk about this now. We should do it. We should go on. Is So we've been looking for you mentioned the sun, and by the way, the plasma that we're getting from the sun in a very real way in this moment, we're calling it to us. We are calling it to us. We're calling a lot of things to us. In fact, my daughter called Pluto to its closest point to the planet the moment she was born, and she was born at 413. So there's and it's every 248, every 248 years that the that Pluto is at this point. And We call these occurrences to us. And you know, I if you pull back and understand this a little more clearly, we're also in a place where we were taught for a long time that the bulk of our DNA was junk. They called it junk DNA. 90 to 95%, if I'm not mistaken, is what they used to teach. And I find this fascinating how many people actually don't recall this teaching because it's not used any longer. What we've understood this whole time, they're finally repeating. This is actually, I went to the principal's office over this a few times because they were wrong. And I knew they were wrong because I'd already had three near-death experiences by then, you know. Anyway, so as we accept in this plasma, this energy coming from the sun it's assisting our dormant DNA to come out of dormancy. And therefore, there's a variety of things that are coming waking up in our own bodies, and we're finding it's kind of almost like turning on the power to a video game console that just takes a really long time, and it's more and more able to you can do more, and so that's where we are right now. And while we're calling this to us, there's this mighty thing happening in the heavens. So back in 2017, there's a story that was found in the Bible, and this same story was being reflected in the heavens just before the 2017, or excuse me, August 21st, 2017 solar eclipse. That was the first of this bookend window of time that completes April 8th this year. And I am in the line of totality for that. Um, why is this significant? As they said, when we're coming back to this other one, you're going to start to hear and find the stories. And I can't, and I don't, I'm not that person that looks like it has to
No,
come to me,
no, no.
just as you said. And so I'm going to finish the story. I'm going to, this is a long one. Um, is that um, we were to look for the conjunction. And I didn't know why that was important, but we did. And like I got this all of a sudden, so this list of what next conjunctions are happening. And so the story of Thoth, the Atlantean, yes. This is also known as Hermes, and this is also known as Mercury. So Mercury is conjuncting, is in conjunction with Mars. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Yes, Mars is also the god of Aries. And people talk about war, and I believe that's a smear campaign. Truthfully, there's a lot more about Aries, this action, this mighty doer. There's no stagnation. There's just, it is a very culturally understood way of speaking with a man. You'll find that they want to solve your problem, and sometimes you just want to vent. You want to be flowing like water, and so then, so they come into conjunction of point 12 degrees. 12 again. And then after that conjunction, then Mars is in conjunction with Venus. Now, after Thoth gives Mercury or Thoth gives Mars, the divine masculine, the balance, the last thing, the visual of it was this very real, like you see in Egypt, what Thoth looked like holding a parcel, handing it to the man, the divine masculine rather, and taking it excitedly. And then as he held it to his chest, it absorbed into him. And completion, balance, joy, and this is happening. This is actually, what day is that? This is this month. So that's happening on the 27th. And then the next conjunction, now there's divine masculine finally in balance. And so then divine masculine then is conjunction with divine feminine, Venus. And this is in 1/2 degree, 1, 2, 12 again. And then, then um, Saturn, the dark sun, is in conjunction and behind our sun Sol, so he goes into the sun. You know who Saturn is? Kronos. So there's just a lot of code there, but
No,
uh,
it's fascinating. I'm shaking my head like this because I'm with this, all of it. I'm with it, all of it, and the Chronos thing is pineal gland to me. It's the activation of the pineal. It's the 12 signs. But to go back to November and December, there was the Ophiuchus corridor that opened, and that was really, really significant. And I got a real big belt of that one to say, tell people now, Joe, but the portal is open, right? And that's what, you know, they need to pay attention. They need to just sit and they will be brought through. They don't have to do anything at all. It's just sit in the 0 point and they will be elevated to the next level and the next dimension of their being. Now, I don't fully understand this. I just wait till it comes. But I've got a great relationship with Thoth, or Hermes Trismegistus, or Mercury, or Quicksilver, or, you know, who, whatever you want to call him, because for a long, long time now, many years, I've been being guided by this consciousness stream of Imhotep, you know, and Imhotep, you know, and Saqqara as well. Saqqara was very important to me, but where it took to me was Imhotep was a multi-dimensional, multimodal, multi-intelligent being, right? That was quite good at everything, you know what I mean? He wasn't brilliant at everything, but he had a general sort of outlook on life. But his thing was he built the sort of resonance corridors in Saqqara, and it was all really about healing and vibrational medicine. And, you know, something else that I get as well, and I've fallen out with some people over this, is the astrological side of things. Because when I got the sort of the 13th sign of Ophiuchus, right, it made me look further then into something called sidereal astrology then, which really works with stars and not particularly planets then. And this, you know, when your heart opens up and you think, right, okay, keep going with that now. And I got also, Joe, it's really the moment of conception, right, that determines the soul's pathway rather than the period of birth. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I got, you know, and I said, just go with this and see how you feel about it. And then I got in my mind, as clear as anything is, at the moment of conception, I know you've talked about this recently, where the sperm hits the egg, that's the big bang, you know, that's the, it's a little bang, but it's, you know, sometimes you can think it's a big bang, you know what I mean? But that's the moment when the sort of the finger activates the expansion of the womb and stuff like this. But what I got really was clearly is I've forgotten what I was going to say then, so I'll pass it over to you and see if anything's coming.
Your mind fell to the gutter and you lost what you
Yeah,
were saying.
lost it completely. I've absolutely, that's been my whole life, that really. Very good.
Well, there's more to the story as well. And oh, and when you were talking about watching how it all works and how we really are stardust and how it sends through in this way, I've also gotten this is the identical image. In fact, about 2 years ago, in the earlier stages of my YouTube channel, I had done this channel message from Archangel Michael, and this is the visual representation that I did that ended up being that drawing that I show people about the breath out and the breath back in. You know, in fact, I could grab it now. Where is it? It's right here. Oh, there's so much. Okay, but before I forget to say, we also have, remember the corridor that we had back in October, where there was two eclipses. One was, I can't remember which was which, the order of it. I believe it was the lunar eclipse was second. Yes, that's correct. So there was, everyone understood this corridor. As you had mentioned too, there was a lot that happened during that window of time. And there's a second corridor. The corridor starts on March 25th, 2 days before my birthday, which I always feel like it's really fitting. And then the other side of this corridor is this big thing that's the Great American Eclipse, and that's April 8th. So this window of time is a little bit longer. And maybe, you know, I mean, it might be nearly the same. What I find fascinating, though, is that there's supposed to be an energy right in the middle. And I haven't pulled up the calendar to see what the day in the middle is, but this is going to be some type of a peak day also. And I'll bet there's going to be like a comet or something. There always ends up being some over dramatized stuff. You know, God's up there like, let's put some firecrackers in there too, you know, but this is what the image is.
Yeah.
And
I
so,
know this image very well, even before you showed it, you know,
yeah.
because
Should I describe it?
I've always seen bubbles as cells, and the cells merging really. So it's a sort of a merger, but it's happening naturally now. So as one bubble meets another one, the membranes sort of open up and meet, and then it becomes a bigger collective one then. And it's a bit like that drawing behind you, because when you were talking to Elsa the other night, I watched that, and like she said, at the same time, I saw the same thing as well. So this is about really the spheres of consciousness, and stuff like that. But it's funny you to say. I mean, I've it's my dad's birthday, the 27th of March. So it's
Oh,
important. It's important to me, that one. But my birthday is the 19th of March, which is reputed to be the last day of the year, really, in other calendars and stuff like that.
mhm.
So I was sort of born at the last day of the year with this fish going both ways, and I'm a sort of typical Pisces if we're using the ordinary astrology chart.
Right.
So I find it very, very interesting. But once again, at one level, none of it matters, really. None of it matters. The theory doesn't matter unless it means something to actually practically take steps and improve things. That's where I'm up to on it. Don't know
Like
what else. Don't know what else to say there.
you actually segued into something that we all do all the time. And actually, I brought something that would be close enough of a visual aid to try to explain it, if that's okay. Is
Of
like,
course, of course.
okay, so what we've been talking about lately is a lot of people have been talking about timelines, jumping timelines. And the more that people talk about it, the more that I'm finding they're actually talking about something different than they know they're then it's close enough. And it really doesn't matter to really, I mean, you don't need to know all of this to make it occur, though it's easy, it's done with less strain if we do this with intention, and so I'm not sure if this is gonna work, but this is just my idea. Was so oh well, you might be gonna okay, let's get the green ones out of there. Okay, so each one of us has everyone understands about the chakra system. We have this, and they call it the seven primary chakras. However, it's nine primary chakras. There's one directly above the last one we follow, and one right below the one that the root chakra. Um, and this is significant that we've edited this out because it's taken away the power of choice in a lot of different ways. Okay, so what we are in this, and there's a lot more than this, but at the root chakra, below the root chakra, there's this place where there's all of these little streams of light, and they're all different colors. So I'm claiming this is like below the root chakra. This is the one I'm talking about. And what happens in the center is we tend to pick two that kind of come in and out of our middle center, our space. And this is just we call it to ourselves in manifestation. This is called the quantum stream. These are like they're actually we can call them timelines, but there's many of them. I mean, this is a bad example. I just grabbed whatever I could think of, but it's there's many of them that fan around, kind of like angel hair. It's really pretty. Um, and to what we do is we say things like words in different order than them gonna say, but afford and then say I can't. If you put those together in the other way, people saying that say, I want this one only. I want that. And this one's trying to get away because it's supposed to be weaving. We're supposed to weave all these together, right? And so when we are pulling in each of these, what we're doing is we're making a choice. And so that's why when we weave, a lot of times we'll notice that we'll go through moments throughout our previous life experience. And then when you're done talking about that, then nothing about that matters again. Now you finished that, you closed that hole. So what we're doing instead is now pulling in multiple streams. And this is the part that if you say to a group full of women, it's hard to swallow because it's a beautiful thing being a mother. However, the divine masculine energy creates the birth canal. He does. The divine feminine energy is the womb, yes. But the birth canal, and this is the entryway and the exit, and it's only done with straight lines. It's not done with the divine feminine orb, spherical, always on a curve energy. Um, and when this is understood, then in self. as a female body, I have divine masculine. I have a lot of I've been leaning on it and using my divine masculine most of my life, and it was a broken divine masculine. And so much that people most of the time always think that I'm into women. I'm not. I just anyway, so we're all healing this inside of ourselves too until we can admit this or be able to accept this as a possibility. Then we're stuck with two in the middle, two in the middle. And then when we start to allow ourselves to accept both sides, then they're able to weave into this big tunnel of golden light all around us. And that's when you have every optimal quantum phase at your disposal at any given moment. Tragedy no longer exists. Victimizer no longer exists. None of these things exist. And the things that people think that mattered, all of a sudden they realize that they don't remember why it mattered. Because those things were you calling to yourself. Does that make sense? Did I explain that well
That's
enough?
perfect. I just say to all that, I agree, right? Because I see that slightly differently. I see it differently. I see it in a way, and I call this initially quantum disentanglement,
Okay.
right? And we talk about strings rather, so it's a weaving thing, right? And I see that the first thing is that what I learned was that I had to really open my heart up first. I don't mean physically open it up, but I just mean through sitting and through mindfulness practice and breathing. Then I got in touch, then moved out of my intellect that was blocking my intuition. So I came from the outside world into the inside world and started to listen as my intuition, inner teacher, inner guru, started to guide me then through the flow of spirit, really. And I think that's what knows, and this is what I got really clearly is, Joe, listen to your intuition because it will guide you to the next action or understanding that you need in order to neutralize the sins of the fathers and the fathers' fathers have thought, oh, don't be doing that religious stuff with me. No, no, understand it, Joe, understand it. This is about neutralization to take you back so that you can weave then the life that you really want from your depth. So exactly the same as you. And I also see the other thing as well, the 12 spheres, right? But at the 13th is, we've got to me, the 13th is the Christ center, if you like, and it's the soul, it's not the heart, because I think people get mixed up between lower heart vibrations and higher heart vibrations, and I think really I don't do sort of levels. I think I've mentioned that to you before, because some people may come in from a soul's point of view and need to work on the base levels in order to neutralize, because like you say, it's about neutralization, and it's all about energetics, really. So I do understand, and what I've got clearly now is I've got the color wheel, the 12 colors I've got now, right, with the 13th managing the colors. But not only that, there's different tones and different sounds and different vibrations for music as well, or the tones, and sometimes when light language comes in, if you can get your head out of the way, right, and just allow it to express itself, it's almost like a master mechanic that's actually tuning the frequency, and stuff like this. So when you talk, I understand, but you're saying it in your words, but the understanding and the energy of it resonates totally with me. And as for the male, I see what I get is the world, Joe, really is curvy linear, and what actually happens is the universe will send information into the right hemisphere first, right? It will then go across the corpus callosum, right? And it's almost like an analog digital transformer. It will change the analog signal, the waveform, into a particulate signal, right? And that's the linear side of it. So the right hemisphere is the creative side. It's the side that's open to the universe, and really it passes the information on to the masculine who needs to take the action, and then it feeds back right to the cosmos. Then I don't know whether that makes sense, but
It
that's
does.
how I sort of feel it at the moment. That it's almost like it's a complete feedback system, right?
Yeah.
But it's not revolutionary, it's evolutionary, and that's a big thing that they showed me. It's a spiral dynamic. And if you
Yeah.
just get out of the way, it will actually start to, like a corkscrew, it will lead you into the next dimension. So the corkscrew actually burrows into the next dimension. And basically, because Elsa mentioned this, placenta is the place of entry,
Right.
right? But it needs that sort of male sort of insertion bit, if you like, to activate the process.
Right. And without this is an example of baking, though if if it's absent any ingredient, it's not going to come out. There's and this is a very important because remember the conjunction story we just told, where then Kronos or Saturn goes behind our sun. This happens on leap day.
Right.
Leap, that is, that's the day that my 4-year-old niece is going to be one.
Right.
Um, yeah, but it's a very significant thing because it happens every 4 years, and the 12 and all of these things are the link that we're being shown to make is that not that we're leaving anything behind, we're becoming more like you said, another way of this because the words that have been used a lot, at least by me. I didn't know what I was saying enough to it be clear. We're not leaving the Trinity behind. Now we're becoming the more, the four, and so and what it looks like, I actually saw it in the night sky. It was the stars became a violet line around. It's this first triangle, and it folded out. It became, and then it turned into a diamond in the sky, and it was like wow. It was really pretty. And just then, I think it was Stacy or it might have been Elsa got the same thing and they messaged me in a different country, and so when this is happening right now, so I'm pretending that this is on my hand is, let's say it's the triangle that, if the person is on the tip of the triangle, as this folds over, this is the accelerated awakener that's going, oh, neck breaking speed, right? Those of us who were at the base are like, yeah, yeah, I don't know why you guys are so upset. That was just kind of a tickle, and so and then all in between, everybody in the middle too. And so it's going to feel different based on where you are right now,
Yeah.
because some of us have been doing work toward where we are energetically for a very long and gradual time.
Yeah.
And others, it's like, you're going to pop like Neo in the movie almost feeling because everything you were told to believe and believed is a lie all at the same time.
Well, that I was told because most of my recovery, right, came from the 12-step program of recovery of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Love.
Because people don't understand it unless they've been in, they don't understand it, And really, the first 9 steps are to clear the channel, and the
Mhm.
last 3 steps are basically to maintain an open channel, because it's about we sought through prayer and meditation. It sounds a bit religious, but sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, they say. But that's keeping the channel open, but expanding as well. And I don't believe that we don't let go of anything, like you've just said, but we transcend and include what's gone before. Because sometimes we need to go back and pick a little bit up just to sort of put something right up here. It's almost like a patchwork quilt, really, where sometimes you have to go and get a thread from down here to make the color perfect up here and stuff like that. So I see that there's all different components, but again, Mela, I see it spherically. So there's no up and down, there's just like sort of an orbital thing really that goes on, really. But I also see I've been shown really, they've got me looking at the skull now, Golgotha, the place of the skull. So I've had a lot of sort of Christian type sort of resonances really. But they said to me, look down on the top of the skull, Joe, right? And you can see, and what they showed me was almost like a disc with 12 aspects on it. It was almost like opening a safe, really, and they
Mhm.
showed me really as the sun works, it changes this around. So there's chronology, right? And also, as that's turning around there, it's impacting upon the different organs of the body as well. So the 12 meridians feed information into the 12 cranial nerves. The 12 cranial nerves then change the electrical signal into an electrochemical signal, right? That then floods the body or the plasma, and it's the cell membranes that pick up the biochemistry. What are you going to show me? Right.
It's 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 also Turtle's back.
Oh,
A
well,
tur
there you go then.
This is a
Turtles all the
brain.
way down. Turtles all the way down, yeah. So it's really from where you're sitting now, that picture behind you. If I look downwards there, That's the pineal gland at the top, the crown, right? And if we go down this way, it takes us backwards actually through time and through our brain stem, which is the reptilian part of us, and it takes us all the way back. So we're almost like being guided. The clock's on the top here, so this is where the pineal gland is and the biorhythms are. It's fascinating,
Mm.
but then again is big deal.
Well,
Big
there's
deal. It's all very interesting, but I'm skint here. I could do with some money. We're struggling here. This, that, and the other. How is all this stuff going to help me to make ends meet? Right, because that's what we're looking for. How can I make ends meet with all this information and take the action so I can have a reasonably exciting but comfortable life? Thanks very much.
right, right. And that's the greatest illusion of them all, this enslavement system of belief in the lack of abundance when we live in an abundant world. Like when I had that, I don't know if you know were you following that or not, but I had this really crazy experience in August where it's initiated another series of experiences, but this one was still the most profound. Was this inner earth being came to me in the night on the last day of the month it started at 11:11 p.m. and it ended, well, I was in the house. I ran to my phone to start to the audio record the experience, and the clock said 1:11 a.m. But anyway, a lot of understanding and uh, fascinating experiences have occurred ever since. And this is bringing us back to a lot of, man, I just totally lost my thought. I can't not believe that happened. I was so excited to tell you this story. And I guess I was, whatever. Um, there was a lot of downloads that had occurred and that I was shown was the things that were going to happen. And most of them have happened. Um, and the point that we are in right now, where we live in this place, it's the symbol of this state is the diamond, and all of these fours and this understanding for four has been coming in so strong. And to understand that, like for instance, I'm going to go back to what you were saying because this is that chakra I was talking about that just below the root chakra is actually a whole bunch of orbs. And each one of those orbs have to do with alternate realities. So that's why those are two, they get mixed together. Um, but the reason why that's significant, and there it is, and the reason why that's significant is that we understood all of these upgrades we're going to be getting. And one of those upgrades, my daughter told me about, and it's amazing. It has to do with the pineal gland because we have rods and cones in our eyes. This is how we can see the rod. The cones are how you see a range of color.
Yeah,
And so if you had one cone, you would see a very low range of like a red and orangish colors, so on and so forth. We have three typically in the human species. There's three. So we don't have the range of ultraviolet that is perceivable to our eye. The reason that science has been highlighting the pineal gland lately is up until recently, they didn't realize that we have bioluminescence within our body. This is how I heal people when they come to sessions. I just ask their light to go places that it's missing. Um, you can move through a person in a microscopic way, like you're a little person. But anyway, um, and so they started to notice that now people's hearts are glowing, a bioluminescence. And because the third eye, the pineal gland, is pointed down, they were like, well, it's a dumb organ. It doesn't know, it doesn't have any instinct. It wouldn't look into the dark. It would look for, no, dude, it's looking at the most important place of all, your heart, and so then my daughter came in after this code had happened, and she told me we were going to start getting a fourth cone. There's four again, but we're going to get a fourth cone, and this is a range of light, of color that allows you to see much higher frequency, and we can also now see in the dark, like really well. Like it looks like you're glowing. It looks like your body's glowing. Like it's not an invasive light that bothers your eyes. Um, And now she's bringing things to me that were called blue and saying, "What'd you see?" My daughter, she knows that because she's seeing even more than I'm seeing, and she just gets a smirk when I answer the question because it's like, duh, you still think 3 + 3 is 1. Dang it. So, but this is all happening inside our bodies right now. And this has to do with all of these things that you're talking about.
So much confirmation because I the same because I get the four quadrants looking downwards because there's the four quadrants of the brain, but there's also the four chambers of the heart as well. So I've been getting there, but really clearly looking down because it's well known in science, even in medical science, that the pineal gland contains vestigial remains of optic nerve fiber. So it works. It's a connection between the pineal and the pituitary gland as well. But another one is the thalamus as well. So most people know about the hypothalamus, but the thalamus collects all information that comes from all the senses as well.
Right.
And so then it redirects it then based upon our previous experiences and our memory. We're sort of almost like moving out of the midbrain now, where all the memory is. We've got the limbic system, which is the amygdala and the hippocampus and all that stuff to do with memory. We're being now, if we can just let go, right, and not over analyzing or not keep looking back in a nostalgic sentimental way, because sentimentality now is keeping people stuck, really.
Yeah.
And it's not that you lose your feeling, it's just that you don't get it emotionally engaged, because it's the emotional engagement to past events that's stopping us from actually being going forward now. And you get to a stage where it's almost like you don't have any feelings because we're so used to, right, and somebody told me once, he said, Joe, it's not that you haven't got feelings, it's just that you're not getting sort of bound and engaged with stuff that's memories of the past that trying to suck you back in all the time. And if you look at the television, the television's there, isn't it, to induce fear, and it's to
Right.
take you back, and it's to bring all our yesterdays and stuff like that, so then you can go into like reminiscence therapy now and stuff like that. Well, I think my feeling is that we're being asked to forget that, right? Because you're not living in the now, because what you'll do is basically you'll go back to the past and you'll flip over into the future, sort of fantasizing, really. So rather than that, we need to be vertical rather than horizontal.
Yeah.
And I think the way I've been shown is, they say show them again, Joe, show them again. How do you get to this central bit, And I want to talk about in a second, before I forget it, really. Kadosh, Kadosh, and the 10 to the 12 and the reconnection to those two lost spheres, because I think it's so important, because we've been sort of locked away for a long, long time from the full potential of what it is to be human. And I think now we've got this opportunity, if we can just trust our intuition and our inspiration to guide us rather than using any sort of analytical
Yes.
processes with our brain. But I'll pass it over to you to see what comes out of that.
Yes. Oh, you've hit the honey spot for me. I love this conversation. Um, and to elaborate a little further, just for evidentiary, it is kind of fun to have that validation. It's like science says it too, you know, is there's been a study recently, and I don't remember who. I did mention it on a Trinity show with Todd and Stacy back in November. So I did quote the person then. Anyway, there's a recent study that had found that so the hippocampus is where we get new memory stress stream systems. So they're like the beginning, so we can make them. It's a short-term memory place that turns into a long-term memory when it comes back at night. Okay, so the production of these are everybody has it. When they wake up, there's these little things that neutrinids or something. I can't remember what they called them. Um, Anyway, why this is fascinating. This I didn't quote where I got the source because their take on it was, oh, everybody's becoming dumb. But it's not how I understood what this information was telling me. Is people are starting to not produce these because they're staying the most in the moment. Like these people were saying, oh, people are becoming zombies,
Yeah.
and when in fact what's happening is our bodies are understanding that this is not a storage place. This is it's a filter as we receive information from truly an Akashic. It's like a virtual cloud. It's not even, this has got nothing to do with any of this. We put so much importance on this, and it's not. It's 100% not. In fact, we send most of our light energy into our brains rather than to the rest of our extremities. That's why we have our failing bodies tend to do better once we stop spending so much time in our brain.
Yeah.
And so this is exactly pairing those two things together and showing that in a real way. Science is showing this is what's happening, and so once you then pull away from that aspect, then you realize that you're actually in your higher heart. And the higher heart, it has a teal like
Yeah.
color
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if you're speaking with love, means truth, means you're in the moment. And there's this new thing now, and new thing because there's a word for it that they gave me that I've not heard repeated yet, though. It's just something, it's called 0 point in action. And that means very much that we're talking, we're moving, we're doing things. Where 0 point before was this, you're in trance meditation state. Now it's like we're doing it right now. We just pulled so many of these angel hairs into this stream in this conversation alone. And you can only do that in 0 point. And so this is 0 point in action.
The last talk I did with was called Spirit in Action, and so it's all falling in together. This is confirmation to me of all the stuff that's coming in, and it's all very well, as I say, the spiritual life is not a theory, we have to live it, right?
Yeah.
And it means that we have to take action. So God, if you like, gives us the information, but we've got the shovel and we have to do the digging, really, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I think that that's people are starting to understand that. And it's almost like karma yoga, because karma yoga is a program of action. Karma
Mhm.
is about taking action almost to neutralize the obstructions of the past. And what I've been told quite clearly is, Joe, there's only two major obstacles and obstructions to going forward, and one's fear and the other's
Yeah.
pride. Intellectual pride will block you from hearing what your intuition and inspiration is trying to guide you. So how do you get over pride? You get into a real knowing that you don't know, that we know next to fuck all about anything, really. And I'm fine, because in my biomedical days and my medical days and stuff, I knew a lot of stuff. I knew loads, but I used that really to put people down and say, how smart I was. And look, you've got no idea what you're talking about. I was absolutely not a pain in the arse. It's improving, but it's still there. But I realize now, going through all the stuff, I had to get to a point where I only ever feel like I'm scratching the surface of this now. Don't get me wrong, when I'm talking to people like this, it excites me. I think, fucking hell, there's so much going on here.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. So that's the one thing is, if you're working with somebody, it's to discover somebody who's prideful and academically sort of intellectual. It's to discover a chink in their armor, you
Yeah.
know, and that basically you can say that by saying, well, how's that working for you? That one, But the other one is to encourage the fearful, because that's the child side that needs encouragement to play out really and to start, So that's where I'm up to with that. Only two major obstacles. So if we can almost like step back when we feel disturbed and blocked, it's almost to say, what is it? Pride? What is it? Fear? Which one is it? If it's fear, it means we have to go forward and take a courageous step forward. That'll dissipate stuff and neutralize it. If it's pride, it's like, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about here. And that's where I'm up to now, really, is most of the time I used to be so fearful about everything, really. But I mean, the thing that blocks me now really is my arrogance, and there's no doubt about that. I listen to people and I can feel it coming in to think, oh, fuck off, you don't know what you're talking about. But I'm
Well,
just being honest.
you're calling it
But
the wrong thing.
say it again.
You're calling it the wrong thing. That's why you can't resolve it. It's not pride at all. It's self-worth.
Right, okay.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, I didn't mean to cut you off. I
I
really
don't
didn't.
care. No, it's okay. Just
Just
explain it a bit more for me if you would.
Yeah. So the self-worth is actually where the vast majority of the population of the planet is in this healing of the self-worth. Because so as an example, we talk about vanity and the culture I was raised with is that was something to avoid at all costs, to not be a vain individual. Though if you read it in the dictionary, it says holding yourself above or below another person, and And so as we overcompensate into being considering ourselves less, diminishing ourselves more, having low self-worth talk, these types of things is usually triggered by our desire to not be in a prideful state, and actually causes a prideful state because that's how we overcompensate outwardly.
Yeah.
And so the root of it, just as all things have a root that we often don't, like anger starts from fear. There's only fear and love. That's it. Like those are the two roots. And then everything, there's a whole spectrum in the middle. And so anyway, if you can find the root, you can find the place that needs to be healed, that needs the healing. And this is the self. And you actually mentioned this earlier on in our talk, the self-worth. And that, this is allowing yourself to be able to be witnessed inside yourself and in front of the All Mother in the complete flawedness that we are, like which the flaws aren't actually what we call them. They're not what we think. We don't really we're not infested with flaws. In fact, these these quirks are our powers, they're the power tools that we have, the higher power tools,
Yeah.
so we can build and create the world that we're in. And so going to this all mother place often is easiest done when going into like the earth and meditation, and you're down there and you go to this place and are embraced, and then you get to start crying and being weird and broken. And it, this is the kind of thing that I guide people to do in sessions, and this is just a thing that's happening on a global way. And so if you can find where the root is, I don't mean to put you out in front of everybody
No,
here,
no. This
but
I know that this is true because I feel like crying my eyes out now.
you
Okay.
know
And I know it's true. I know this feeling. I know exactly where it's coming from, and it's coming from a mother wound, right? I know that because my mother, and this is not a criticism, just trying to explain it. I could never tell. I could always feel her mood, and I could never tell what the action was going to be. So it was either going to be "I love you, son," and snuggle, 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 and all that lovely feeling and stuff, or it was a slap at the back of the hand, or a plate being smashed over my head, or hot water being thrown over me, or stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
that really, and I always remember, and I have shared this before because I was sent away at 11 years of age to start my priest training college because that's what they used to do it there. And she came up to see me, and more than anything else, I hated it there because I missed my mother. And she came up to me and she said, "How are you getting on, son?" and all that. I said, "Mum, how are you getting on with English?" Because we're very good with English. I said, "There's a word I don't understand. It's society." And she said, "You stupid boy, it's society." Right. And I know that was her fear, right, of me looking foolish in front of the teachers, right? I can pick it up. I can remember it as clear as anything, right? And it virtually floored me, you know what I mean? So there's those things really, because my mother was the person that I loved more than anybody else in the whole world and hated with a vengeance as I started to grow up. I hated her more than anybody else, you know what I mean? And I share this openly now because I think it maybe help people, but I know it well. I know the feeling. I know exactly where it lands in me, right?
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for letting me. I was trying to stop myself the whole time. Thank you for being okay with me saying that in public.
No, no, I think our talks and my talks with everybody really. I think if we can be open and honest about things, I think it does help other people, you know. And my mum's now she's coming up to 93. She's in a nursing home around the corner. I've been to see her today with my sister, and we haven't laughed and a joke. But even though she's got Alzheimer's or dementia or ever, there's a part of her that comes back, right? And I'm
Mm,
still right. I still walk on eggshells because Mary and I, that's my sister, we can feel it coming. And
mm,
that's why we watch people. Because as sensitive people, I was a great watcher. I would see somebody's mood change, feel it, and I would change my story in order to fit in with them in case they either criticized me or picked on me or something like that. So that's what I was. I was a chameleon all the time, right? And manipulating myself in order to fit in with what I thought other people. So I've learned all these things about myself, but now I have to try for the most part to stay in who I am right at that moment and allow these feelings almost like to dissipate until they equalize. And Mila, there's still work to do, and I'm okay with that, really.
yeah. All things are meant to continue to evolve, and that's it. I would say that's the discouraging part for most people is that when they start to do healing and they're really, with intention and they're noticing this progress, and then they find themselves circling back to something that they thought they had already resolved. Well, they have. If you look at it like a spring or a spiral, and then this is the thing that needs to be healed as you spiral through, you get to discover and to heal newer layers that couldn't be resolved previously, and they do often feel just as big as they did before, but they're not. They just feel that way because now you're at a higher frequency place. That's why when these higher beings come in, they're just like, whoa, dude, how do you hang out
Yeah,
here? Like,
yeah, yeah.
so, just know that you are making progress and just to keep doing it while you heal yourself. We talked about this earlier, though I don't know if we mentioned that because I do see energy and I don't see it all the time and but I see it when it's meant to be. I see a lot of ripple kind of things. And I can see the ripple when someone's healing. You can see that, and the ripple affects everything that goes, it passed the blades of grass. It improved that grass. But what really, this is the part that I get all encouraged about is the type of healing that was done in those moments. There are so many others who have identical of trauma, whether in this lifetime or throughout many lifetimes in some cases, which is why they're not able to do initial healing. In this past, since 2017, in a global way, there have been more intentional healings in these previous aspects and things. And while we've been doing that, we've been doing what I'm talking about now, is that now this ripple goes over an individual who has an identical difficulty or trauma from a previous experience that's been too much for them to heal, to even start. So they end up being the people that in incarnation are just chronically depressed and cannot get out of victim mentality and just disempowered all through their lives. These individuals are now getting these ripples and they're getting more of them. And now they're starting to get out of bed. And now they're and this is happening now. Then I've been watching it. And I did this, I was a social worker previously. I was a behavioralist, actually. It was all about, the brain and behavior and stuff like this. Um, Anyway, I've witnessed it. We're here. And so now everyone has a chance. And the only thing, and this is why we're here, I've got to say this is important, is that you have to make a decision. Because if you don't make a decision, you're just going to be standing in front of the threshold until, I don't know, fill in the blank. Um, all you got to do is make a decision because all things are accelerated once motion is already established. You got to do something about it. And do something can't happen until you decide you're going to do something about it. Not if this happens, I'll do this.
No.
It's I'm going to do something about it. And then all of a sudden, it becomes possible, And so yeah, that was really fun. Thank you for letting me do that.
No, no, indecisiveness, right?
Yeah.
Is a problem. Not with me anymore. I'm thinking, ah, fuck it, I'm gonna have a go anyway. So I'm very much like chuck myself into stuff now. But just go back to that internal, that inner criticism deep down and stuff like that. I know that it's a program that's running. And it's a program not just running in me, but in a lot of people. And in the formative years of life, if you're brought up with that program running and it's being fed to you, it's obviously going to internalize. And I know that. And when I used to drink, it all used to come out, and I was ferociously and violently destructive when it came out. So that was the addiction side of me, because to me, addiction is based in emotional repression, right? And I can see that now. And so the release came when I drank. It just all came out, and that was the feeling of freedom that I got. So that's what I got stuck to, So I must be saying this for a reason, and I've been repeating this in a few sessions recently. But the point about it is, if you allow your heart to open through various techniques, then that almost like mediates and moderates and gentrifies it really, and it regulates it really so it can come out in a more creative rather than a destructive way, And I honestly believe that you can't really understand yourself fully until you come to terms with the beast side of you, the shadow side of your nature, Because I honestly feel that the beauty that everybody's looked for is in the belly of the beast. Got no idea what all that was about, but it's to turn your eyes the other way around and not be afraid to look inwards, right? Because that's where the true power lays.
Right.
And to make that start, it takes courage. But more and more people are being asked now is stop looking outside for answers. So stop expecting and start inspecting, really.
Yeah.
And that's the shift that's taking place. It's the shift. It's almost like an upside down tilt to start looking inwards because that's really the way to go forwards. There we are. It's like almost like a lecture there.
Yeah. There's a takeaway for a technique or tool to do this kind of healing. And this, I'm a very visual person. I go places and I often am really not with my body, and so this is how I see it. So however you need to interpret this is there's two things to do. One is to, when you're pulling in the light of, the of source of God, notice it going through your body. And then it will stream through the fingertips as it moves through every exit point. It's going down and it's digging like roots in the ground. And this is where if you let it weave and become the birth canal, it's the golden light, right? It weaves into this light tunnel, like a water slide almost, down into the center of Gaia, where there's this amazing lit chamber. And that's where the All Mother, I call it, I say Gaia because some people call it that. All Mother means a lot of, there's a lot in that. Um, and so anyway, and here's where you can meet this mother that is really truly your mother energy and gives you and loves you, all of you, in every way, in every aspect, warts and all, right? And
Yeah.
knows every bit of you already before you even take the time to speak it, and loves you and just wants to hug you and just to hold you. Um, this is usually done as a separate meditation. So there's that. And then there's this other really useful thing to do is that as we're now doing the same idea, you're pulling the light, and often I'll pull it through my heart rather than through my crown. And then it will go up both ways as well. And if you let it go through your diamond chakra that's above your head, you'll notice that it prisms 144 times. And so there's 144 colors that will come back up through your root chakra and make your toroidal field. Just that's good to know too. Anyway, uh, and that's a lot of fun because when you can do that, then it's like you're clearing the energy. Um, and so then you take your mind's eye in this meditation space where now you're in a good place. You realize that your belly button is actually a portal into the mother womb space. And so we go through this place, and sometimes it's dark and needs more light. Sometimes there are crystals everywhere that have little small images that just like gifts that just have a real and that need to be seen so they can go. Just they don't need to be connected to like, oh, I remember when I felt like that. No, just there's some things that being denied, ignored, imprisons them. That's all. That's what that is. Anyway, but if you keep going down this corridor and you find that you enter a new, it looks the light's different. Now you're in your grandmother's womb, and then you can go into your great grandmother's womb, and this isn't creepy. This is healing. The
Yeah.
mother line. The mother line was hijacked. It wasn't very long ago, actually. Only a few lifetimes, truly, and these healings haven't been completed. A pre-depression period is typically was as far as people need to go. So this is aspects of healing the mother, the divine feminine, and healing this mother wound through going to her womb in this space. And because this is your womb, this is your room, this is the place you began this experience. And so you can take it back, take the energy back. And again, that sounds weird if you look at it in a logical way, but this is the space that was tainted in this time with the fears and the gross that was coming in from the outside before you knew that you had choice. So take your choice back.
I understand this a lot because when I gave up the drink or the drink was taken away from me, I got a clear indication is go to the local spiritualist church, right? And so I went along, right? And I didn't at first because it was against the Roman Catholic religion. And the person who was guiding me said, hang on, Joe, you're going to suspend everything that you believe and you're going to start a new pathway. And I thought, well, fair enough, yeah. So I got this real big sort of push. It wasn't a voice, but it was a real powerful stream of thought. Go to the local spiritualist church. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I went in. And first of all, my prejudice is all, it was a nice white building, right? They had the Lord's Prayer on. I thought, this is a bit weird, with the pre-healing hands and all this sort of business. They sang Faith of Our Fathers in this spiritualist church, which was my favourite hymn, and I thought, this is strange. And then they introduced the medium, and I thought, she looks like a normal person, because I'm expecting the cone hat and the broomstick, all that stuff. And she gave this talk about how death really was a promotion. I really thought, I like that. It's a good idea, that, where you're freed from all this stuff. And I thought, this is good, this. And then she said, okay, I'm going to go into the messages now. And I thought, I wonder what that means. And she said, right, I'm just getting the strong impression to come to the new man at the back of the church.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, my arse went like that.
Yeah, I'll
And
bet.
I was thinking, oh my God. She said, don't worry, don't worry. She said, I've got a beautiful, there's so much love coming to you. She said, oh Christ, there we go again. There's so much love. She said, I don't know whether this is your grandmother, right? And I got the feeling strongly, and this leads back very much into what you've just said there. And she said, son, she was holding a bottle of beer up. And she said, you've taken the right steps this time. Well, there's the 12 steps of recovery of Alcoholics Anonymous. She said, son, you picked this for yourself, right? She said, you've come here, right, to explain to people all about these things. And you will be guided now step by step into understanding things. You'll be invited to a healing circle, which I didn't have a clue what that was, and you'll start to understand. So I know that sort of indicates to me, at least, and it's just the way I feel things, is that I picked this pathway before I came here. That was my soul's purpose, my soul's mission, and I chose it. And there's lots of things that every single day just validate that, and come up all the time.
Yeah.
So anyway, to go back to the Irish Catholic connection, right? There was a lot of stuff there, and I've been taken back to the Irish Catholic, to the male dominance, to the
Mm.
violence, and my grandmother, my nan, that was my mum's mum. Okay, she had 12 kids, so she hardly had any time for herself and stuff like that. And there was a lot of violence and there was a lot of domination and stuff like that. So that is in my ancestral past as well. But I've
Right.
almost like been taken back to that to understand why my behavior was being guided by that as well. So it wasn't even anything to do with my personal life. This was
Right.
stuff that was coming to me for the sins of the fathers and the fathers' fathers. So there's the two generations. So you see, all this is confirmation to me. It makes perfect sense.
That's
And so I know that I've had to go back there to understand the social and cultural conditioning of their past, to understand how it's actually come up here and still prevalent in this day that we're in now. I
yeah.
know I've got no, I mean, I know what I've just said there, but this is very interesting and very powerful, this really to me.
Yeah. And we're all here in a global way is exciting. Like this is parade energy, of like, yeah, like it's and now all the signs are everywhere, like too. Like so it's now it's just a joke. It's really ridiculous how many times we've said the number 12 in this chat, and I don't know how like 12 is and it's 2:12 p.m. right now. And like I just found a notebook last night that I had some drawings about some important things that was going to happen in 3 years. And I wrote that January 22nd, 2021, 3 years ago, exactly today. And like and so it just the fact that it's all, I mean, I brought three notebooks with me. Out of all of my many,
Yeah.
many, many things, I left everything I left everything. I was pulling pages out of baby books to make sure she could have, but because I couldn't put the book, it was too big, and I could only have 55-pound suitcase because
Yeah.
of the airport. But anyway, I brought that notebook and I happened to open it that night to be sure that I knew ahead that we're here now. We're here now. And why am I saying this is because this global healing is what's kept everyone from moving up. See, there's a lot of symbols of keys and doors being unlocked for people right now. These are doors that we locked ourselves until we were ready to get to that point where we were able to figure out how to use a key, you know? And sometimes it's a different kind of visual, but this is why. Then you realize that you're the lock, you're the gate, you're the bridge, and it goes and goes and goes, and it's just a little bit of healing. It's just a little bit of healing. And the bulk of it is being able to say to yourself, I'm the shit. I'm awesome. Those kinds of things without embarrassment, saying it
Yeah.
enough to
Yeah.
where you're not embarrassed anymore. And I really am not that person that puts those things on the mirror and reads them. I was told to do that. And oh man, don't tell me to do something,
Oh no,
like,
no. I know that one. I know that one. But it's funny, you mentioned things, and it's all coming back to me. I must do the other one as well, Kadosh Kadosh, and in a second. But just to say that when you were talking to Elsa the other night, I get so much listening to you two coming in. But you were talking about salmon leaps and going upstream and stuff like that. Well, I got no, it's not salmon, Joe. It's Solomon, right? I thought, okay, what do you mean?
Right.
It's Solomon's key, Joe. Right? That's what we're talking about here. Solomon's key. It's the master key. And I thought, well, I don't know what you mean by that. And I'll get just take it for now because this is about the 12 keys. And I live in a place which it has the docks are quite close, and they're the 12 keys as well. So I get led back to ocean and oceanic consciousness. This, I mean, this is what's coming in all the time, and trying to bring it in and leave it in the middle to make some sort of sense, right? It's I know that it's all being processed in a way, behind the scenes. And I really do feel that we just get fed with sufficient information to go forward one breath at a time.
Yeah.
That's where I am. But just to say that when you put that Kadosh up the other night,
Yeah.
Kadosh Kadosh Adonai Sabaoth, right? That means a lot to me because I've spent about 25 years studying the 10 sphere or Sephiroth, tree of life. And when I got told really that there were two spheres that have been blocked off, right, to misdirect us, everything started to fall into place. So rather than being revolutionary, I mean, some people talk about, the daisy of doom and the bloom of doom and all this sort of stuff, but it became open then. And that's when this new portal opened up that allowed the other two streams to come in. So that if we can let go, get out of the way and be done to rather than us doing anything really,
Yeah.
then we'll understand what it is then to be a full spectrum human being then.
That's right.
And you see, look, I'm getting all this like, you know, so that's where I'm up to. I'm only too eager to learn something new every single day. And I will play this back and listen and compare it to the other one and see what goes on because I just get a feeling that I'm supposed to do that.
Right on. Well, let me know if you find anything.
I will do.
The
I
leap,
will.
the quantum leap,
Yeah, yeah,
the leap year, all the sun, remember, divine feminine, divine masculine, and in union, a son is born. And so this is happening on leap day to leap. There's a lot about this. I've been so in download. Like I was able to go live yesterday and then I was busy and I saw though notifications from Elsa's and so Elsa, if you're watching this, I am going to read your messages, but I did see you said something about jumping and the Hopi again, and that triggered something else, and I couldn't end go. Um, so we're doing this, and you know what? And I know that you know that we're going into the year of the dragon, but we're leaving the year of the rabbit. The rabbit is a symbol of fear,
right.
and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
means
yeah,
fear.
yeah.
And, so we're leaving this behind. We're leaving this into this mighty, empowered, and interestingly enough, as she first comes in, dragon's female, divine feminine energy that I'm interpreting. It's this, but it's the mama bear kind of energy of like, you know, I don't know if you, I won't swear, but don't mess with my kids, kind of energy, and not
Yeah,
at us. It's for on behalf of you. Like, I'll say this to people, stop being mean to my friend when they're talking poorly about themselves. Like that kind of like what I usually don't say stop or do, but anyway, um, it's the same thing as this divine energy comes in and showing herself as this mighty dragon. She's tired of you hurting yourself. She's tired of you talking down to yourself and teaching yourself to believe in a false prison that's you're the warden, you're the guard, you're the prison itself, and fascinatingly enough, this whole journey started with me realizing I wouldn't have to have keys ever again. And I still haven't had to since October. I haven't and anything that's required a lock, there's been keyless entry, and like it's really crazy how it's manifested in a physical way. When I was getting it, you finally mastered the key stuff. Now it's time to, this is just because I've been doing this since my first near-death experience when I was 4. So it's not, no one's above or it's just been doing it longer.
yeah, yeah,
It just takes time, some of it, and so, and I had the benefit of extra trauma. Like I was a trafficked child. I was beaten severely. I was murdered on accident. Was one of my first was my first that near death experience. I bring this up because having more trauma made it easier for me to heal it because it was freaking obvious. You know, somebody who was, you know, gaslighted enough to not believe in their own trauma are the ones that are having the hardest go of it, you know? And anyway, so I just think it's fun that you brought the keys up again. And it's really been that now I'm in a place that all you, I have all the keys already. And that's why when someone asks the question, then I start to get to tell the person what it is. I don't even remember what it's important anymore because I've already done a lot of downloads like you have too. Like you don't realize you have this wealth of information regarding this thing until someone says, "Huh, I wonder," and then here it comes.
yeah. You mentioned the light, and the luminescence and stuff like that. That's an area that I'm particularly supposed to be expert in, called chromatooptogenetics, really.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's the way that the solar plasma light, right, drops down then into ordinary light, which then permeates the skin, but then goes into our connective tissue then. And there's a lot of stuff happening now because it's actually the light that's doing the cleaning at various vibrational lengths. So this and what they're showing me is the various tones and the various colors that will specifically help to clear different sort of streams of consciousness in people. So not only do we have like the 12 major streams of consciousness, which are associated with the 12 tribes, which are associated with 12 geographical locations, but what I was getting to before is at the moment of conception, what I saw was like a Polaroid snapshot of the universe, which folded up then into the individual's body then. So that became their soul's journey then. So there was an encapsulation of the universal snapshot at that time that was uniquely specific to that individual then. And that's the journey. So they're in the sort of, that's the start of their journey then. So that's where I'm up to with the stuff that's coming in. I just want us, before we sort of go, because we could do this forever because I love it, because there's so much stuff coming in. And I know that in the next few days, and by the way, Elsa is watching, and she's, because she's always watching.
She's
And
watching.
she's put Codicus code. I got, but for the grace of God. And I put that up, once. And a load of people had to go at me for being sort of disrespectful and stuff, but it's just a joke, for Christ's
Yeah.
sake. So Kadosh Adonai Sabaoth, what does it mean?
What does
I
it
mean,
mean?
I don't mean it literally mean, but
No.
what does it mean to you?
Um, it is it's pulling yourself to your highest, most advantageous frequency range, and it's consent because everything is all that you need for to be 100% happy and perfect 100% of the time is 100% available all the time. It's just that We have been, you can call it programmed, you can call it conditioned, you can call it a lot of different words. For one reason or another, most of us don't realize that we're doing this on autopilot. Like we're just a conditioned thing. Um, and we're taking away consent, permission, for the things that are not the best for us. And so this statement is taking that back and bringing and taking your own power back as well. It's not even that anyone has taken anything from you, it's been given. So it's going, bringing everything back here and standing in the you that you are. I've never felt more confident and badass, but just don't care, and not in a bad way, just everything is, you know, like I'm good, is in this frequency. This is a frequency everybody gets to have. Um, the more that we evolve in a spiritual way, the more that we are very much aware that we are all energy around us, like that snapshot you talked about, and then that's pulling that in too. So it just depends on where you are in your journey so far, is what your result will be. Early on, when I was getting a lot of catalysts coming into my field, a lot of unpleasant energies coming into my field, when I would say this statement, then it was like the special ops SWAT team, zoom, zoom, and they'd come get the bad guy away, right?
Yeah,
And it's evolved very much since then. But when we do it, you can actually see all the strands that were like tingly go whoop, and then they have their perfect stream, like they're not tangled up and weird. It straightens us up. We understand um, that not just life requires light and water, but that is soul. Light and water is soul. And so that's why our body swells in areas that need more light, because then the light will go there. That's why we put our hand there to draw the light there, in a healing way. Um, so I would say that doing that's also a immediate reset of your body too, because it straightens it up. Does that make
makes perfect
sense?
sense to me, because to me the central tenet of all healing modalities, right, is that any pain or disturbance is an obstruction to the free flow of unconditional love, really. So the more that we get, because most of us have been so dissociated from our bodies and our body sensations, the first thing that happens is we start to feel things more and more. It's not things that have only just come in, it's things that have been there all the time, but we've just been so detached from them that we've been unaware of them. So initially, with a spiritual awakening, we can feel shit, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes it's called a healing episode, to put a nice term on it, or a healing crisis, but it's a positive thing, really. And so it's a highlight to look at the real course obstructions to the flow, you know what I mean? And then you can start to remove some of the logs from the dam then. And what happens then is we get into the tributaries and it's like capillaries, really. It's like going from arteries and veins into capillaries and to sort of de-obstructing it then. So that happens in the meridian system and the nadis and stuff like that. So that's what's happening to all of us now. So if you're feeling more and more pain as you sink deeper into yourself, it's a bigger shout to say, will you please pay attention to this bit now, and then go and take some action. So things like hydration, connective tissue massage, movement, exercise, tai chi, yoga, all these things,
Dancing.
or dancing, shouting, singing, the whole lot, anything that's creative and allows you to sort of express yourself fully from your core essential self, right, will blast all this shit out of the way, because the shit's being all sort of knocked off, but it
Yeah.
needs to be cleared as well with more and more flow, really. So you can do it in any way, and nobody needs to know about it. I'm not saying keep secrets from people, because sometimes when you explain to people what's happening, they can throw a negative in and it can actually block you. That's why Jesus is reported to have said, don't be telling anybody. He didn't say it like that, but I think that's what he meant. He said, don't be keeping secrets. Speak it through with somebody that you can trust, but don't be telling everybody what you're doing, because people get envious, they get jealous, they think you're a nutter, and that may affect you as well. So just quietly go along. If quietly go along, I can't do that, but try and go along step at a time, right? Just removing more obstruction and allowing more flow to come through, really. So all these like traditional Chinese massages, but connective tissue massage is so important. Just straightening out the sort of cling film layer, right, will help. And then hydrate then, and also move as well, and stuff
Right.
like that. So they're the practical steps, and if you can go then for when you get the first sort of superficial layer moving, then you can go for deeper remedial massage then, which works on the organs and the visceral tissue then. And that's almost like as you get to different layers. And when you said floors before, FLAWS, I got floors, and it's FLOORS, So it's step by step, sort of going backwards to actually start to go forwards, really.
Right. And that's actually highlights another point that it, so a lot of us have skipped steps, and we find a lot, and when we're in an astral experience, those that we're interacting with sometimes will look at you like, how do you know all of this stuff, but you don't know that?
Yeah,
Almost they don't say those things, but you just
yeah,
it's the way
yeah.
that it is. And that's because, and so now this is the time. This is, in fact, I was talking with Stacy about this before we had this call, is now's the time for people to go back to these other steps, these stairs that were skipped, and we were taught to skip, or they're whatever, like you had said, and we don't, it doesn't really matter where it came from. Um, that's another aspect of this healing too, is to understand that there are no bad guys or good guys, and we do know this on an intellectual way that we chose and they chose and they're helping us, and it's a partnership and stuff like that. But what's more is, I mean, it happened, whatever it was, good or bad or indifferent, it happened, and there's nothing that you're going to be able to do to change it. It just is. And so then knowing that there's no balancing of the scales, there's no longer an investment, because you don't have to feel like that your duty is to ensure this person has penance of some kind, revenge. Those things don't actually matter. And that was intentionally pulling our frequency to focus on, hey, look at that over there, while they do something over here, you know.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
so now we're done with that.
Yeah.
We're beyond that time. And speaking of time, you're right. I do need to get going because I have a session coming up shortly. So,
No,
but go ahead. Thank you so much I'm going to let you talk again, and then I'm just not going to cut you off anymore. And I'm just going to say thank you so much for having me today.
no, thanks for coming. It's been absolutely fantastic. And I know that a lot more will emerge from this. So I won't say much more other than, to everybody, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you get something from it. I'm sure you will. But on the subject of forgiveness, I understand that forgiveness is not what I thought it was. Forgiveness, really, for me, it means to take the hook of the emotional engagement out of me and let it go then, because in the end, it all comes down to it's all about me. Right. And that's where I'm up to with stuff. So thank you, my love. It's been an absolute pleasure. Maybe we'll do this further down the line, see what else is coming up. And thanks again, and keep in touch.
I would love that. Thank you so much for
Okay,
the
though.
honor.
And have a beautiful rest of the day. Thanks very much. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye bye.